Muslim apologist. Sorry, but I don't think you realize that you are not very good at debating this topic. I'm not sure why you agree to it. I'm not sure why you're trying to argue this point. You didn't get the you didn't get the essence of Christianity right. No, you didn't get the essence of Christianity right. I would like to have a discussion. I would wish to have a discussion. I recently had a debate with, what's his name, Gnostic informant, who actually had a proper understanding of the debate topic. So we had the proper debate. This is not meant to be an insult. I'm just pointing out that this is a very fruitless discussion.
What happens when a Muslim apologist is asked to prove Islam is better for society, and instead starts throwing shade at Christianity? Well, let's just say the Apostate Prophet wasn't in the mood for dodgeball. In this debate, what starts as a discussion turns into a complete schooling, and the apologist never saw it coming. Grab your popcorn, this one's going to be fire.
There's no such thing as a Christian society today. Most of what we see now in the Christian West are secularized, and they are, Christian societies are basically currently under a secular system. So if you want to talk about human rights, women, liberties, freedom of religion, etc., these are all born from secularism in the West. So it has nothing whatsoever to do with the
how do you imagine a Christian society?
What do you mean it is not true? You just all you need to do is just take a look at medieval Europe and see how.
Okay, how do you imagine a Christian society? How do you imagine a Christian society?
How would I imagine a Christian society? That's actually a question you should ask yourself, because I think if you read the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, I think it's pretty much clear. Like, for example, you bring up the issue about apostasy, why Muslims have laws for apostasy. I mean, back when you were an atheist, you could actually get away with doing that. But since now you have declared yourself to be a Christian, I don't think you can do this anymore. Because
you understand why I ask you what your understanding of a Christian society is, because you say that there are no Christian societies today. So in order to make that claim, you would have to establish what a Christian society is in order to then explain why today's societies are not Christian societies. So in your view, what is a Christian society supposed to be?
A Christian society would be a society that follows the laws of the Bible,
such
as medieval Europe, for example. I think they tried their best to follow the laws.
Such as what laws? Medieval Europe is not a law. What laws, for example?
What do you mean, whatever laws? I mean, there's so many examples in medieval Europe. I mean, I can't think of any particular example, but you could take a look at how.
So you can't judge. So you can't look at Christian societies today or post-Christian societies, and
there's no such thing as a Christian society today. That's the point.
Okay, why? What's why? That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking you.
I was just going to explain that. Okay, according to just now you were mentioning about the apostasy laws, right? You say that Islam does this and that against apostate. Sure, but the problem with your claim is that since now you're already a Christian, you should take a look at Deuteronomy 13, where he says that, kill all the apostates, those who believe in other gods. So as a Christian who claim to believe in the Bible, why are you not following that law?
Because Muslim apologists, I'm kind of surprised that you would actually bring this up, considering that you are somebody who has engaged with interreligious, debates for a very long time, and you make yourself out to be as somebody who understands what he's talking about and as kind of an authority on these topics. So you should be aware that that there is a concept in Christianity which is called the law, right? The old covenant and the new covenant, and it is very, very clear in the Christian Bible and in Christianity that that the followers of Jesus are not supposed to enact the laws that were binding upon the Jewish population in the Old Testament. This is why it's a New Testament, a new covenant, where Jesus comes and says take this of my new covenant for you. So Paul explains it very, 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 very clearly that that Christians are not meant to be bound under the law. He himself was still observing it, but Christians from very early on did not observe it, and it was always known to be for Jews, whereas the Gentiles who are coming in and who are now basically becoming the majority of the religion of Christianity were never meant to be under the law. Even in Judaism, is very obvious. In Judaism, non-Jews are not supposed to follow the law. So it's not a very new, fantastic thing that Christians would come and say, oh, we don't have to follow it. Jews themselves would confirm that Gentiles wouldn't have to follow the law.
Yeah, I would argue that Paul is not a true Christian. Okay, Paul made up his own religion. He made up his own gospel. According to his own words in the epistles, he said that I come to you to preach a gospel, a different gospel. If you read Matthew 5:17, chapter 5, verse 17, you will find that Jesus himself said that, do not think I have come to abolish the law of the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. See, this is a clear statement from Jesus, where Jesus himself said that, Christians, those who claim to follow the ethics of Jesus, are supposed to be following the laws of Moses as well.
So this is a very funny thing.
Unfortunately, Christians are not doing that, including
so
you.
You're saying that Christians are not real Christians who don't follow Christianity properly.
You're not.
But then
Definitely not.
But then you declare that Paul is not a real Christian, and you reject Paul's Christianity.
I definitely reject everything that Paul said.
What kind of Christianity are you talking about then? And didn't you just contradict yourself, considering that you said that medieval Christians were following Christianity properly, but then you also said that Paul was not a Christian. So what Christianity are you talking about? If medieval Christians were following Christianity, they were following the Christianity of Paul. Where exactly do you get this idea from that? Let's reverse. No, you just contradicted yourself.
I'm not contradicting myself.
You just admitted that Christians are not bound by the law, but then you also argue that Christianity has to follow the law, despite the fact that you admit that according to Paul they don't.
I know what I said. I know what I said. Okay, I know what I said.
We all know.
Okay, so can you please let me explain right from the beginning so that you understand the context of where I'm coming from?
Sure. Yes. Go ahead.
All right, and please don't interrupt me. Okay.
Yes.
So the timeline is Jesus came to preach the gospel, to the good news, and to tell the Jews to repent. Okay, this is in Matthew chapter, I think it's in chapter 3. Okay, and then when Jesus ascended to the heavens, 40 years later, along come this guy called Paul. So Paul, he claimed to have received visions of Jesus on his way to Damascus, although ironically, this was only recorded in Acts, but none of these experiences of him meeting Jesus on his way to Damascus was ever mentioned in the epistles. So Paul concocted this idea that Jesus came as a sinless man because all mankind has been born with sin due to the original sin of Adam alayhi salam, who ate the forbidden apple, and I believe you know the story. So long story short, Paul created his own ideals, his own framework. Okay, we're not going to, the topic of the debate is basically about Islam and Christianity in society, so which is best of society, so I'm not going to go into detail about this. But long story short, again, Paul's ideals of Christianity, or what you call Christianity today, is totally different from the ethics of Jesus. So clearly, if you look at the Gospels, you'll find that Jesus followed the law. He practiced as a Jew. Okay. He did everything as a Jew would. Okay. But Paul didn't do this. Paul said that the law is a curse, that Christians should not follow the law, Christians can do this, Christians can do that, which is totally opposite of what Jesus taught.
Okay, can I share my screen here, James, for a second to show Muslim apologists something? Okay, sure. So I want to read to you from the Bible now, and this is not from Paul. This is directly from Matthew. So I want to read, since you claim that Jesus followed the law completely, I want to read something to you here, and you can explain to me what exactly this is. So here we have it. So here we have Jesus is the Lord of the Sabbath. Matthew 12:1-8. At the time Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath, his disciples were hungry and began to pick some heads of grain and eat them. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to him, "Look, your disciples are doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath. Every Jew knows that on the Sabbath you are not supposed to do these things." He answered, "Haven't you read what David did when he and his companions were hungry? He entered the house of God, and he and his companions ate the consecrated bread, which was not lawful for them to do, but only for the priests. Or haven't you read in the law that the priests on Sabbath duty in the temple desecrate the Sabbath and yet are innocent? I tell you that something greater than the temple is here. I tell you that something greater than the temple is here. If you had known what these words mean, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent. For the Son of Man is the Lord of the Sabbath. This is, if you understand the lingo here, this is Jesus declaring himself to be God and to be the ruler over the Sabbath. And thereby saying, you guys don't know the law. If you did know, you would not talk like this, and basically justifying his own disciples breaking the Sabbath law. And then we have something else, which is Jesus directly saying, Jesus called the crowd to him and said, listen to me, everyone, and understand this. Nothing outside a person can defile them by going into them. Rather, it is what comes out of a person that defiles them. He then further says, don't you see that nothing that enters a person from the outside can defile them, for it doesn't go into their heart, but into their stomach, and then out of the body. In saying this, Jesus declared all foods clean. This is after Jesus repeatedly eats with folks that are not, that he's not supposed to be eating with. Participates in non-Jewish activities that are forbidden in the Old Covenant, that are forbidden on Sabbath, and so on. These are just few examples here, just two examples of Jesus clearly breaking the law of the Old Covenant, breaking the law of the Sabbath. Here he is breaking the law, and even verbally, directly, and explicitly declaring what is forbidden allowed, meaning food that is not kosher, he declares kosher, he declares allowed for everyone. He says basically all food is allowed. Yet you are telling me here that he perfectly followed the law. Now, who are we supposed to believe, you or the Gospels?
That's not what the verses are saying. Okay,
oh, yeah. What does it say?
I think you totally misunderstand, and you're using the same arguments that David Wood did against Alex. Okay, so as for the on the issue of the Lord of the Sabbath, I think Alex O'Connor has already explained that, and I agree with his position somewhat. But my take on it would be that as a whole, okay, Jesus came to reform the laws of the Jews. Okay, he as Matthew 5:17 clearly says, he has no intention of abolishing the law, but to fulfill the law. What does he mean by fulfilling the law? So it means that Jesus wanted to reform the law so that it is less harsh, less abusive, and more applicable for in terms of ethics and morality. Because when Jesus came, he preached the idea of empathy and love into the laws of the Jews. No, so he did not break the law. He reformed the law, but he did not break the law. He reformed the laws.
So now you're redefining what it means. So he changes the law, but you are telling me that you are
saying that it's a change of the law. For me, it's not a change of the law. It's just a reform of the ethics. He did not say in the verse that you cited. Did the verse that you cited anyway says that Jesus allowed for pork to be consumed?
He said that nothing that comes out from your body into your body defiles you.
Then why was it that in the story of Acts that when Paul was preaching things that were against the law, why against the Jewish law, why did the apostles Peter and James, why were they upset with Paul, and they wanted to summon him to the council and ask him directly, why are you trying to
I feel like this debate should be more about your misunderstanding of Christianity than about Islam versus Christianity. What is better for society? The whole idea is that there are initial internal disagreements on whether the law applies to Jews or not. Paul himself is a Jew. The early disciples are all Jews, and Paul makes it very, very clear. What?
Of course, they were all Jews.
Yeah. So they were all Jews, but they also have an influx of Gentiles coming into the religion, into the faith. So the early discussions are about whether Gentiles who enter the religion have to follow the law as is, including circumcision, for example, or not. Circumcision is actually a discussion in the New Testament, and the conclusion is basically that the law no longer applies to those who.
That was what Paul wrote.
To whom Jesus brought salvation.
That was not what the apostles agreed with.
You don't make any sense. You're completely contradicting yourself.
I'm not contradicting myself at all.
You just argued that
I'm just telling you what happened in Acts. That's all. Yeah, I'm just telling you what happened.
You're just telling me that Paul has a discussion with the others on whether
why
to
did
follow the
Paul
law
why
or
did
not.
Paul and Barnabas had such a great disagreement that they had to split from each other? Why don't you answer that?
Are you gonna let me talk or not?
Barnabas was a follower of Peter and James.
Are you gonna let me talk or not?
Sorry?
Are you gonna let me talk or not?
Sure, go ahead.
So, we have two issues here, which is that on the one hand, you argue that according to the Gospels, the law has to be followed word for word.
Yes.
You say to me initially that that the Jews are meant to, or that Christians, as instructed by Jesus, have to follow the law of Moses, right? That's what you said earlier.
Exactly.
We can go back. You said that they have to follow the laws of Moses. Then I bring to you the evidence where Jesus directly breaks the Sabbath, not for something non-essential, not for something essential by the way, not for an emergency, but rather for picking grain. And he then explains that he is the Lord of the Sabbath, and he declares it allowable and permissible, and accuses the priests and the Pharisees of misunderstanding or of making a false judgment because they don't know what they're dealing with. He further declares all forbidden foods clean. So he declares that no food is hereby any longer unclean. Then, however, when I bring this up, you say to me that he came to reform the law to make it more human. I'm sorry, didn't you just say a few minutes ago that they were supposed to follow the law of Moses? Now you're telling me that that he came to reform the law, to change the laws of Moses, to make it more humane. What do you mean more humane? It's about basically declaring food legal. Okay, I just want to briefly respond to your issue on Acts. So Acts 15 is the relevant part to read here. I'm not sure if you have read it, but if you go in Acts 15, if you go into Acts 15 and follow the discussion on the law, this is not Peter. This is not Paul. This is literally Peter himself saying, "Now then, why do you try to test God by putting on the necks of Gentiles a yoke that neither we nor our ancestors have been able to bear? No, we believe it is through the grace of our Lord Jesus that we are saved, just as they are." So this is his response to imposing the law and imposing circumcision and all those things to others. You can find the context here very easily. I don't want to read the whole chapter here, but Acts 15:5 specifically talks about Gentiles must be circumcised, required to keep the law of Moses, and so on. And the conclusion here, not by Paul, but by Peter, is that no, they don't. We rely on salvation through Jesus by grace. So we went down this whole discussion here because this is not even a topic, because you wanted to argue that Christianity is actually a legal system that everybody has to follow, but they just don't follow it, which is why there are no examples for Christian society. This shows that you don't even understand what Christianity is, because this is not Christianity. In Christianity, we don't have a strict set of laws that everybody has to follow. Christianity came against that. Christianity is an opposition to the legalism in the time of Jesus. This is very, very much known. We don't have written laws. We have morals. We have guidance that people go by, which is very different from what Islam is, where Islam imposes strict laws and rewards and punishes people based on whether they follow those laws or not. So no, there is no such thing as a true Christianity that everyone is supposed to follow, and so on. We're talking about Christianity as it is, as it has been historically, as it is today. We have Christian societies, post-Christian societies, and those Christian societies and post-Christian societies, look, I'm saying it right here, I'm saying post-Christian societies are significantly better than the Islamic societies.
That debate was fire. So, here are 3 things I learned. 1. If you can't defend your worldview, attacking the other one won't save you. 2. Apostate Prophet might be new to the faith, but just like Paul, he's out here defending Christianity like a seasoned warrior. And finally, a lot of Muslims think they understand Christianity, but really, they're just battling a version they made up in their heads. That's it from me. Smash that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for more truth bombs.